Hi guys, and welcome to my video. In this video, I want to teach you about particles. So, what are particles? They are these things that you see coming out of this shape. Particles are very useful for adding decorations to your game. They're very useful for helping create a sense of realism or helping your players understand a little bit more what the item is and what it's doing. So for example, fire is a very common particle, or smoke. There can be other things like electricity, or in this case, these sparkles that you see coming out. So let's delve into what particles are. So let's go ahead and open up the properties and open up the Explorer as well. And here we'll see, we'll see that we have a particle emitter within this triangle, or this triangle shape. Here it is. So when I select it, we have all of the properties. So this is where all the magic happens. This is the base shape, I guess you can say, is this star, whatever. But then we can adjust so many things, like the rate at which they come out, the speed, the shape, the color, all that. So let's start off by making this particle a more appropriate color, kind of to match the shape here. So it's like this shape is emitting these particles. So then we have more parameters or properties we can adjust here, like the light emission. You can see there's a slight difference when we adjust the light emission. Light influence is the ambient lighting surrounding can have an effect on the particles. So if the room is lit up, then that light will also affect or bounce off the particles and illuminate them. Okay, so here's the orientation. Right now I have it set to facing camera, so no matter what direction I face, the particles will be facing me. So keep in mind that these particles are two-dimensional. They're not three-dimensional. Particles are usually two-dimensional, meaning they are thin. So if I change the orientation to maybe this, you can see what I'm talking about. They are just two-dimensional shapes. So let's look at this. From the side, you can see that they're flat. Okay, that's really kind of, it gives you an idea that they are two-dimensional. So an illusion, or a cool effect, is when they face the camera, you don't see that they're two-dimensional. So people kind of, in their minds, they perceive it as three-dimensional. Okay, so the next thing here, we have the squash. So as you might guess, the squash causes these to become flattened. Okay, so if we increase it, you'll see that these particles become flattened. I don't want them to be, so let's put it to 0. Here's the texture. So this is where you put the texture ID. So if the ID changes, you put a new ID, the shape will change, but the other basic parameters will be the same. So if you wanted a square particle, you put in the ID here, and then these will all be those square particles. So you can get those IDs from the toolbox. You can get those IDs from other places. You can create them, but this is where you would put in the ID to change the actual core or base particle. Okay, transparency, self-explanatory. Okay, you change how, if it's 1, you don't see them at all. I think you get the idea. Z offset. Okay, here's the data, just the name. So emission. This is where a lot of the magic happens here as well. So this is the emission direction, all right, based on the direction, the part of the part. So the bottom of the part, the top of the part, whatever. So enabled, obviously that just stopped it, but we'll go ahead and enable it again. Here's the lifetime. So this is how long the particles last for. Okay, right now I have it set to 3, but if I changed it to 30, you would very quickly notice that these particles last for a very, very long time. You see that they're not disappearing. because I changed, they have a very long lifetime now, and you can see more particles build up. So that's an important thing to consider when you are creating particles. The rate, this is the rate at which they are emitted. So this, how often they come out of the part. You'll see when we increase that rate, we have a whole lot more particles coming out, right? They don't last long, but there's so many of them. So if we increase the lifetime again, we'll end up with so many particles. It will just be like, just, I don't know, a lot. So if this is what you're going for, make sure to adjust those properties to the way you want them to look. So let's reduce that again to 3 and reduce the rate again to 5. This is rotation. So the rotation of the particle, it would be spinning. Okay, kind of self-explanatory. This is the speed. So if I increase the speed, and let's go ahead and increase it to 30, you'll see that the particles are now shooting out and spreading out much further. So you can be way out here or whatever, and you'll see the particles coming from this piece, which is kind of cool, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Okay, spread angle. This is the angle at which they spread. So you can kind of reduce it to like a cone where they only spread out in this direction, or all 360 degrees. So this is the shape of the emitter. So imagine an invisible sphere that's like the walls are where the particles are actually coming out from. So you can change the shape to a disc or box. So this is right now I have it set to outward. So if I set it to inward, you can see. So this gives you an idea where the invisible sphere is, because this is where the particles are coming from. Now they're coming inward towards the shape instead of outward. So you can have in and out or outward. That's what I have. Okay, we have the shape partial, shape style. So it's the volume. Okay, so volume means it can come out from any point of the sphere. Okay, flip book layout. You can have a 2x2 grid, or we have motion, acceleration. So acceleration kind of is when you have a set speed, but it accelerates and gets faster and faster over time. So they kind of start off slow and then they move fast. Or it can be negative acceleration where they just slow down. But that's what drag is. As you can see, if I reduce the drag to 0, they kind of float freely. If I increase the drag to like 0.8, you'll see that they kind of slow down. They move, they slow down because of the drag. This is locked to part, which means if the part is moving, then every particle will also move with it. But if it's not locked to the part, then the particles that were created will stay in their spot. Even if the part moves, the particles will kind of remain in place, which I think most people prefer that. So if you have a character walking around, the particles left behind kind of leave a trail, as opposed to the particles being locked to the player and every particle follows them, which is not as realistic. Okay, we have the time scale, so it's kind of self-explanatory. If I set it to 5.5, that's half time. If I set it to 0, it's completely frozen. So 1 is just normal time. Velocity inheritance, so again, having to do with gaining velocity over time. And this is the wind affecting drag. So if you had wind, it could push the particles a little bit. So that pretty much sums up the video about particles. Again, we can do cool stuff like create fire and things of that nature. There are so many things you can do with particles. A lot of times they help players know that, for example, a sword with particles is a little stronger than a sword without particles, and things like that. So there are millions and millions of things you can do with particles, millions of different types of particles. I encourage you to experiment with this to kind of help bring your game to life and make it more sparkly and prismatic and beautiful, and so that it makes more sense. All right, I just want to leave it there. If you guys would, please subscribe. I love to make guide videos. I love to do reviews. I love to do a lot of other cool stuff. So go ahead and stay tuned for that sort of stuff. Like, comment, share, do whatever you feel like doing. If there's something that you need particular help with, feel free to leave a comment. If there's a video you want to see, let me know. All right, guys, have a great day. and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.